Alright. Let's get started here. For anyone checking out the VOD, welcome to this lovely Thursday evening. Almost done with the week. We all survived Valentine's Day, or Singles Awareness Day, or Singles Appreciation Day, all of which spell sad. And the people don't even realize this. Okay. How do we start? My stress and anxiety have gotten out of control. I've cried so much today, I think I might need some help. Stress and anxiety. A little vague, but I would say J. It's a bit of a cliche response, but have you considered seeking professional mental care? I know nobody likes being suggested this, but I too suffer from stress related anxiety, and it's actually helped me quite a bit. At the least, if you feel like your condition is affecting your daily life, work, studies, etc., I think it's worth seriously considering. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to go on medication. It's just one of the possible treatments that's available. Chin up. I hope things turn around for you. Yeah. If they had something more specific, I mean, it's tough, but it's a first day. It's a first request. We don't have to be too ambitious here. Been taking a break from weed for a bit. Gonna try and make it to the end of week, possibly Monday before using any more. Also found a study supporting the hypothesis that weed helps prevent COVID. Hey Cake Cat, welcome back. Nah, I'm just getting started. I'm trying to decide if this is a bit of a troll request actually, or maybe some kind of pass at propaganda. I mean, it doesn't sound like they're struggling, but it almost it almost seems like they're trying to justify, you know, smoking weed again, even though they're on their break. So, well, let's see. Not that there's anything wrong with weed, but it kind of reads like you're looking for an excuse to smoke up again. And then we'll put an emoji face to make sure they know this isn't serious. That said, the best way to avoid COVID is to just not be around people who might be carrying it. All the same, I don't think they're really trying to spread misinformation, but it is a weird sort of thing. Judgmental moon. Yeah, man. All the same, props to you for trying to lay off. I hope lay off the ganja. I hope you can keep it up. Hey, Pilgrim, welcome back. As we all apparently survived Singles Awareness Day. And I thankfully didn't get COVID, like I was worried about. So we're back at it again, trying to help the world. Hopefully with fewer romantic issues today. Today has been a very hard day, and I could really use some kind words. Little on the nose there, don't you think? It's like when a TV show or movie uses the title of their own show as a line. Honestly, I don't do vague stuff. Kind words we can send a person who's had a hard day. I feel like a joke is appropriate, right? We got no information, so we just try to make them laugh. Dear Jay, why does chicken give you salmonella, but salmon doesn't give you chickenella? This is kind of my go-to, really. I think it's a great joke. And then we don't have a fish. We got kind of this chicken-looking thing. We do the best we can, right? Let's see. Anyone have hobby recommendations? Basically, talked about yours, please, and thank you. Well, you see, F, there's this thing called Twitch, and I sometimes stream on there. And we read these things on kind words and try to answer them together. I don't think I really want to broadcast, though. Okay, come on. New stuff. Yeah, video games. I mean, chances are if you're playing this, you're already playing other video games. I have been noticing lately, and I'm curious, do you guys watch my VODs? Because I've been getting some like odd followers off when I'm offline, and I've been wondering about why that even happens. I didn't really think there was that much of a market for VODs on Twitch. Let's see. I have a hard time with my anger. Do not like to be confrontational, and I hate bringing up a problem when it's involved. It makes me mad that my roommates are loud, or it makes me mad when an obnoxious problem is there, but we cannot fix it. So, this person seems like a quiet, angry person then. Let's see, W. Sounds like you have trouble dealing with your anger silently. Or at least have lots of frustrations regarding your reluctance to confront problems. Yeah, kind of the plight of anybody who's very unconfrontational, right? Or beta. Like you just kind of hold in the anger a lot. Hmm. Can't tell if the stream's buffering or if it's only on my end or not. Why am I laggy? I hope not. I got fiber optic. It's like the last thing that should happen here. I know Twitch has had a lot of problems lately, though. I think it's all those people playing Lost Ark recently. Yeah. No, I know for a fact that, like, a lot of the bigger Twitch streamers have been kind of having weird technical issues lately. And I think it's platform based, so. I don't know if Lost Ark is hosted on an Amazon service, but. Lower quality options. You know, Pilgrim, unfortunately, it's, the lower quality bitrate is only available to partners. So, it's gonna be a while till I can get there, unfortunately. Let's see, in terms of this person. Ways to deal with anger and frustration. Revolving around having problems, but not... Cat, are you suggesting that they smother their roommates? Hmm. Not everything requires such an upfront approach. I think it's because you're streaming in 1080. Yeah, I mean, I could take it down, but then that kind of makes some of the text hard to read as well. Like 720, I mean, it would be easy just to stream at that resolution. I just don't know if it's a good idea at this point with such text-heavy stuff. Let's see. Not everything requires such an upfront approach. If you just want to get a message across, maybe just text them or leave them post-it messages when you leave the house. If it isn't a big thing, if it isn't done in a big manner, let's see. You don't have to stress about the execution. Only if the viewers have a good connection. Yeah. Maybe I'll look into it. If it's being like a consistent enough problem, I'll take it down, but I guess let me know. It sounds like today is the first time you're having this problem, Pilgrim. Want to get him something chill, like this blob with the eyes closed. Oh God. Spring break is coming. Is it coming? It's only February. And I'm going to use the chance to smuggle my lizard into my dorm since they won't allow my emotional support animal into the dorms without the paperwork. Wish me luck. Apparently his diet was the problem. What the heck? Hey Fana, welcome back. How's it going? I can't get over that dinosaur icon you have next to your name. I can a lizard be an emotional support animal? I feel like they only cling on to you because they're cold-blooded, and so they don't have a means of generating their own warmth. I don't know, this seems a little irresponsible, but the game is called Kind Words, not Dissenting Words, so I'll just skip it for now. Just want to wish everyone an awesome day. Be good to yourselves, enjoy the small moments. They add up. Good of you, E. A little more, seems a little more positive than on Valentine's Day, that's for sure. Any tips to improve my pronunciation when speaking English? Thanks in advance. Let's see. If you're learning English for the first time, I recommend watching a lot of TV or listening to audiobooks. You're the only one who gets happiness from Lizard, not the other way around. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a whole weird thing. Like, really, smuggling pets into a school dorm? I don't know. I've got issues with the whole concept of using the emotional support animal excuse to bring your animal everywhere. I think if it gets to a point where, like, you have to bring them to, like, the grocery store or something, it might be an emotional dependence animal more than anything. Like, you're just being selfish at that point. But yeah. Let's see. So tips on helping someone improve their English pronunciation. Yeah, Fana. Like, an actual trained animal is one thing. A lizard's not going to, like, freaking shove a gag into your mouth if you're going to have, like, a seizure or something, you know? Oh, Cake Cat, that's a good point. Emotional support tarantula. Yes. See, Cake Cat, this is why I have you guys, because I forget that other people sometimes have friends. And, and that's a very good resource to tap into when practicing your English. I was just going to tell them to, like, watch and listen to a lot of stuff to, you know, get familiarized with the sounds of English speaking. But, oh yeah, friends were a thing. How did I completely overlook that? In order to get used to the sound of spoken language. Of course, the best practice. Ah, yeah, Cake Cat. I mean, it's the same as those people who are kind of counterfeiting COVID vaccine certificates, right? It's unfortunate, but that's the weirdly privileged world we live in these days. Of course, the best practice you can get is with a partner/friend. Preferably one who doesn't speak your native tongue, so you're forced to try harder. You know, what's funny about practicing speaking, or speech practice, I should say, is that the thing that made me actually a lot more articulate. Oh! Potalamus, thank you for following the channel. You must be a lurker, because I do see that extra number in the viewer count. Let's see. The thing that made me better at speaking was actually starting this whole Twitch thing, right? And I'm not talking about like the couple weeks ago that I restarted, but like, you know, the 7 plus 8, 9 years ago when I was like stumbling over my words, barely even knew how to hold conversation. I would forget words in mid sentences and all that. Started streaming on Twitch, got very used to talking to Twitch chat all the time. And people say I'm kind of eloquent. I still think I sound kind of like dopey, but you know, I used to talk really slow just to make sure I wouldn't stumble, and like it was like death listening to recordings of myself. I was like, God, just get to the goddamn point. Why are you taking forever to say stuff? So if I had to give this person advice, I mean, I don't know that I would tell them to start a Twitch channel, but if you're feeling extra ambitious, maybe participate in a forum where you can speak to a crowd of people on the regular. Let's see. That way you can build confidence as well. But yeah. I'm assuming everyone watching right now is an English first language person. So it's tricky, I imagine. I think in a lot of ways though, native English speakers are also some of the people who need the most help kind of developing their ability to speak as well. Second language for you? Potalamus, how long did it take you to pick up English? Or was it like a school thing? Let's see. I'm not sure if things can go back to the way they were with my best friend. I spent so much time being sad and trying to get over the fact that I lost the closest friend I ever had. And now they're just casually acting as if nothing happened between us. School, but mostly watching YouTube. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I feel like if you want to learn something, you need a certain amount of immersion. And if you're not getting that in, you know, regular society, the best you can do is just watch stuff. A little silly, but I think a lot of folks, a lot of the weeb community pick up Japanese just by watching anime, but of course it's an over-exaggerated type of version of Japanese, so they always sound a little silly when they practice in person. But yeah, YouTube's a good resource, obviously Twitch, anything where people are interacting normally. This one's a little vague, because I feel like so they're sad about losing their best friend, but their best friend is moving on without them, so to speak. Hey, Known, welcome back. We're trying to solve the mystery of this person who lost their best friend and is upset that their best friend is moving on without them. Let's see. Did this schism? I better check the spelling. I feel like this might be the wrong word. Just to make sure I don't... Oh god, my mouse. What happened to my cursor? Crap. Okay. Schism. Split division. Okay, perfect. Mr. Relation with English has always been weird, so I can relate to that question on learning a lot. Yeah, I mean, known, it sounds kind of like the other best friend is unbothered. Once we made up, the other we didn't. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of... I get the vibe that this is one of the latter situations here. Occur because of a mistake you made. I get the impression that you're sadder over this than upset. Let's see. Sometimes these breaks aren't recoverable, but that doesn't... But sometimes that's... Ugh. Sometimes these breaks aren't recoverable, but in those cases, it's better that they stay that way than be forced back together. Especially if the circumstances that led to this were particularly personal. Mr. Relation? Wait, Kit Kat, am I Mr. Relation? I don't know if that's accurate. I just give old man takes. I don't know if I'm really Mr. Relation, although I do get a lot of consultations in personal life too. I think the thing is that, you know, so many people, especially when they're younger, they're surrounded by people who give you the answers you want to hear or give you the answers that sound most optimistic. And I think I'm old enough that I've lived through some shit that I'm like, no, I can't really in good conscience give you the answer that sounds nice and makes you feel better. I have to give you the realistic answer. And so that's kind of my thing and why people come back to me. But they also don't like listening to me because I'm being negative. So there's a weird sort of contradiction in there. Hitch 2? Doubt it. Don't even ask me about dating advice. I'm still single, man. Let's see. Bears stay. But who knows? Time might heal things. But don't get hung up over the possibility. Just try to learn from whatever happened. Something like that. And then we'll do this sad slime with a party hat. It might actually just be a dropped ice cream cone, but I think it's a similar analogy. My friend despises his brother. Think he is getting abused. My friend despises his brother. His brother is getting abused? Or he's getting abused by his brother? Let's see. J. If you suspect he's actually being injured by his sibling, maybe try mentioning it to his parents for starters, or have your parents talk to his parents. Also, Gotta love ambiguous language. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing, Fana, is I don't think anyone's being intentionally vague. Like, you kind of get, like, this is why I get the sense that so many people on this platform are so young. Because it's like, it's not, they're not doing this to protect anyone's identity. And especially with the amount of text space they have to work with, like, they could definitely do that better. I honestly think it's people who don't really know how to express themselves. And for the most part, that's usually younger people, right? Teachers are also an option if he's a classmate of yours. Reporting aside, you may want to just talk to your friend more to understand the situation better. There's a difference between having a bad relationship with your sibling and actually getting abused. This game tends to bring in people who aren't used to saying what's on their mind. Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. By design, it's kind of like that. But also, I mean, if you've been watching me for a while, you know, lack of grammar and punctuation does drive me insane. And I'm not going to say I have the best, grammar skills in the universe, but I think it wouldn't hurt to put a period or a comma around there. Ptolemy, how does this game work? So basically, the concept behind kind words is that it's like a anonymous advice column. When you start the game, you can send out a letter into the world, basically asking for feelings or advice or to describe your own situation. And so it's up to any other players to basically, you'll see the requests come up. And you have the option to respond. And as you can see, I've been kind of writing back to these things in kind. There is a character limit, so there's only so much you can say or like put out there. But the idea is to keep it short form and simple. So we don't have people like, over-diagnosing or playing at therapist beyond, what's reasonable for like a short answer kind of situation. It's also meant to keep people anonymous, for safety and all that. Articulating your thoughts is your biggest weakness. I don't know, Known. I don't think expressing, I can't really speak for you, actually. I was just going to say, I don't think it's as hard as people make it out to be. I think if it depends on the right forum, right? And it helps to do this on Twitch because, because of the anonymity, we can be pretty open about things. And I've been actually pretty open about my own sort of psychological history as well. More so than I would if I were like speaking to people face to face. No punctuation as a psyop. But yeah, let's see. Next one here is, I haven't felt alive or present in many years now, probably as a result of a 6-year abusive relationship I was in. I've had therapy and meds for 2 years, but the feeling remains. A friend of over 20 years also made that abuse worse, so I stopped talking to him. At 29, I feel like this is kind of it. See, this is an unusual case because this one's actually relatively old as far as requests go. Haven't felt alive or present. So they're dealing with abuse that they must have experienced in their early 20s. Have been going to therapy for the last couple years. Jesus. A friend of over 20 years. So that's over 2/3 of their life. So they're obviously struggling with trust issues here, right? It almost sounds like a bit of disassociation. So how do we... Let's see. First off, A. I'm sorry to hear this has happened to you. 6-year abusive relationship. I myself have gone to therapy. Have been going to therapy for quite a while myself. And I understand the impatience that comes with it. I'm sorry to say, but sometimes we don't really get better. But we do learn to cope. And hopefully that gets to be good enough. Let's see. 2 years isn't that much, to be honest. It sounds like a lot of time. Have I had any familiar or experience with disassociation? Actually, yes. I think I first started going to therapy when I would have been 23 at the time. But it was because I didn't realize how bad I had been kind of living up until then. I didn't really know how to deal with... I had a lot of problems with sort of self-hatred and constantly sort of blaming myself for problems. And so for the longest time, I would just sort of get by kind of like trying to kill my emotions. You know, little stupid mantras being like wishing, you know, my heart is stone. Just be cold as stone. Don't think. Just be, you know, be a robot, be an inanimate object. And so it was definitely a form of self-repression. And of course that goes both ways, right? Like, you don't just repress yourself from being sad, but you also don't open yourself up to being happy or enthusiastic. So, I mean, it was a long-running thing, and it took a while to kind of get over. Because really, the biggest step in my case was having to develop a sort of sense of self-compassion. To kind of, you know, accept who I was, accept that, you know, things I blame myself for weren't my fault. This situation, I feel like, is a bit different. Just because I don't think this is really a self-directed issue. No, I mean, it's sometimes what people grow up with, right? Like, and I've mentioned this before, I grew up Asian and religious. And so that's kind of a double whammy in certain regards because, you know, if you grow up really religious, you just kind of think everything's sort of like, you know, everything's a sin, man. You're such a bad sinner. Jesus died for you, yada, yada, yada. So there's that built-in guilt. And then as an Asian, they're the parents telling you, like, you're not working hard enough, or like, you know, of course everything's your fault if it didn't work out. So, oh no, Kit Kat, I'm over that at this point. Like, I've gotten over it for the most part. I don't really... I mean, I have bad days like anyone else does, but it's not something that's kind of consuming, you know? Like, I say here we don't really get better, but we do learn to cope. And sometimes that's kind of like being able to acknowledge that you've had your past and your history, and that you've thought this way, or that you catch yourself sometimes thinking this way, and kind of having to pivot around that. But yeah, in this case, I think the issue has more to do with loneliness because, right, they've been in an abusive relationship, but also they seem to have been betrayed by a longtime friend. Yeah, no, and you were smarter about it. I think I took it way more seriously than a lot of my peers. And so, where I was kind of beating myself up over the guilt of sin, you know, my other Christian friends were like out having sex or something. Like it's really messed up when I think about it. But that's, you learn from that kind of thing. But yeah, definitely a a stickler for the rules I was. Let's see here. I get the feeling your personal. Let's see. You're going therapy quite a while myself. I understand the impatience that comes with it. I'm sorry to say, but sometimes we don't really get better. But we do learn to cope, and hopefully that gets to be good enough. I get the feeling your problems revolve around loneliness and trust. There's also the ability to use or base your life around your flaws and abilities. Is that the same thing as coping? Um, kind of, in a way. I think I think the big thing I take out of like my personal history is that it gives me perspective. And that's something I've always kind of taken pride in is that I feel like I have a lot more perspective or a lot better perspective than people who haven't had to live through the struggle in the first place, right? Like some people, or I don't know, a lot of people are lucky enough to kind of go through life not having needed to see a therapist or like to ever have felt very alone or unpopular or like to ever hate themselves that much. And you run into these people, and like, it kind of comes back to the people I label as sad shamers. The ones who think you could just like, just get better forehead. Because they don't understand the struggle and they don't understand, you know, how hard it is to break out of something you've been brainwashed into or that you've let yourself become brainwashed into. So, part of what's coping for me is acknowledging that I've had this experience and that I have perspective because of it, but also kind of using that perspective and doing things like this, right? Or being able to give solid advice to people in kind of an unconventional way. And that's kind of how it gets better in a certain sense, because that means the stuff that I've gone through isn't necessarily wasted, and there's value in that experience. But yeah. So, I mean, that might be a bit much to say for this person. I'm still trying to come up with a concept here. I understand the impatience that comes with it. I'm sorry to say sometimes we don't really get better, but we do learn to cope, and hopefully that gets to be good enough. Get the feeling your problems revolve around loneliness and trust. And it breaks my heart to hear that such a long-term friend let you down like that. Please don't let that stop you from trying to build new bonds. It really takes experience. It really takes to experience something to actually understand it. Um, it's not necessary to be able to develop compassion, but I think it's like the easiest way for people to understand a circumstance. I run into this situation with actually a good friend of my own because for the most part she's lived a very confident, very supporting life. And so when I try to explain situations like, the roughness of my upbringing or like the difficult relations I have with my family, she has a hard time comprehending it no matter how much she wants because she grew up in a family that says I love you and hugs and, you know, in a family that doesn't hit each other. And like you could try, but I think it's unless you could dedicate a lot of time to having these conversations with people, it's not something that instinctively comes to mind. So a lot of those people, they unintentionally hurt the people going through tough times because they can't really instantly conceive of a reality where things are sometimes that bad for them. At the end of the day, I think that is what you'll need. Ah! Character limit. Need. Something like that. So trust issues, I can't say that I've lived in an abusive relationship, but I have been betrayed by friends, especially very long-time friends. You'll never fully understand another person's situation, but I think if you go through a tough enough situation, you'll understand the feelings or the circumstances behind being sad. And you'll be able to apply that to other things. And there's a certain value in that, I think. Let's see. All my life, I've had a really hard time trusting and recognizing my feelings. From my crushes, gender identity, and even life goals, I am constantly unsure of myself. Has anyone else experienced something like this? I wish I knew what my truth was. Identity, trusting. So it's not really an issue of identity crisis. It almost seems like they don't trust their own interpretation. A lot of self-doubt, sounds like. Yeah. No, and it's okay. I don't think a lot of us know what our life goals are. I think there's a lot of expectation put on us to kind of have that sort of thing figured out. But like, it's like how there are people who live and die single for the rest of their lives too. It's like it's a common thing that media or stories or family, like, they don't want to acknowledge as a thing. And so we all feel a little insecure about that concept, even though it's a very normal outcome for a lot of people. Let's see. It sounds like you struggle with a lot of self-doubt. I'm wondering where this comes from. I'm wondering, let's see. Hard time trusting and recognizing my feelings. constantly unsure of myself. I'm wondering what aspect of your life must be inspiring this. Because I don't think self-doubt is a norm, is an organic tendency to develop on your own. Trusting, recognizing my feelings, gender identity. I mean, that... If I'm to talk about self-doubt, it would be confidence, but it doesn't seem like an issue of them lacking the confidence to be able to do things or think they can do things. Do you think so, Fana? I feel like when you're at a point where you're doubting the feelings you have, it's because someone's trained you to think like that. I mean, that's what a lot of gaslighting is at the end of the day. Like, I think you can doubt your ability to do things, and that's not strange at all. Doubting whether you can, become an astronaut or go to a good college or, make it on a sports team. That's very normal. I don't know if doubting your feelings is a normal thing, though. Sounds like you struggle. Maybe self-doubt isn't the right term. Maybe it's struggle with a lot of self. It's normal to doubt one's ability to do things or succeed in things, but to doubt your own feelings? That seems like trained behavior. Like something a gaslighter would do to someone. Cautious? Trust their feelings? Maybe. Yeah, I guess the gender thing would be the one pause, right? Even life goals, I am constantly unsure of myself. Has anyone experienced something like this? I wish I knew what my truth was. Yeah, no, it's true. Society does gaslight us 24/7. Yeah, let's maybe take away this arrogant line. That may not be... Life is inspiring this. But to doubt your own feelings. Yeah, the gender identity thing. Yeah, that's kind of the blind spot in this, right? That's the thing that could actually be normal. I'm wondering if I may be misreading this whole situation then. Maybe it's less general than they're giving off. Because crushes, gender identity... Why does even life goals get the even part? Because attraction and gender identity, I think that kind of goes together. The life goals is the strange... That's the one part that doesn't really fit in the list here. Normal to doubt one's ability to do things or succeed in things, but to doubt your own feelings. Because I don't think it's outcome-based fear either. Because having a gender identity and liking someone, those are just things you do. You don't make... There's no outcome that really comes of it unless you act on it. And that's a little different. These are all personal thoughts that they have doubts about, and that's kind of what's odd about the situation. Let's amend that. Personal feelings. To be honest, it kind of strikes me as gaslit behavior. Has anyone experienced something like this? Have I ever doubted my own feelings? I don't know that I have. Even if the feelings were kind of incorrect, I don't think I ever had like doubts about them. I've had doubts about whether I should do things or whether I'm capable of things. I don't think I was ever questioning how I ever felt. Doubt your own personal feelings. Maybe consider whether the doubt is rooted in consequences, in fear of consequences, or I don't doubt my ideas, I just doubt the actions I do to cause them. Yeah. Like once again, it's sort of doubt of your personal ability, and I think that's a very natural and common thing. The doubt of personal feelings is really strange. Feels like a fear of misinformation. Maybe. I mean, trusting whether you're operating on the right decision. It's so subjective. Like the first step of a person learning about their gender identity. In which case, has anyone in the chat kind of struggled with that concept? The gender identity thing. I'm just kind of, if you're open to talking about it, I am curious actually what that first kind of entry point looks like to you guys, because I've had a pretty kind of straightforward life perspective on that front. All right, Fana, if you're open to talking about it, I'd be curious, like, what that first step felt for you, because I've pretty much been who I've been since I was born, so I don't really have the perspective for that, I'm afraid. I do wonder if maybe this issue has more to do with gender identity than anything else. Consider what. First step for me was seeing trans people exist. So kind of an acknowledgement of that reality then. Because I guess if you're kind of sheltered, that would be a cause for pause. Or a lack of information. Or perspective. Perspective. That's right. If I remember right, last time you were in here, you recommended a forum or a website, right? I would say ignore the former when it comes to personal feelings. But for the latter, one simply needs to educate themselves. Ace people, yeah. I'd say ignore the or lack of. One simply needs, but for the latter, one simply needs to educate themselves. Recognizing my feelings. Even if life goals, I'm constantly unsure of any of this. So I wish I knew what my truth was. One simply needs to educate themselves. Through exposure. No. But for the latter, it's when it comes to personal feelings, but for the latter, for the latter, for the latter, have a discussion, or speak with people who feel the way you're unsure about feeling. I think that's something like that, right? So if they're struggling with gender identity, speak with someone who's dealt with their gender identity and get perspective that way. But yeah. Thank you for the insight, by the way, Fana. Yeah, I mean it's tough, right? Like struggle with identity. What do we give them? Let's give them a cookie. Being able to take your time with these is so nice. I mean, it's, I think in a lot of situations, like if I were doing this myself, I don't know that I'd be able to answer this properly, but, we can take the time, we can confer with each other. And this is also part of like the whole community building thing, right? Because I don't get to have these conversations in normal life, and I get the feeling maybe a lot of you don't. And this is nice. This is being able to kind of gain perspective, talk about experiences that might have been tough, but the anonymous nature of this whole, setup makes it a lot easier to kind of do that. But yeah, if I had to troubleshoot this thing in person, forget about it. I don't have enough insight on my own to be able to do it. Let's see. I haven't spoken to an ex-friend in years. I felt like he didn't care anymore, nor showed me much respect in the end. Recently, he liked my drawing on Instagram, and I don't know what this means. I'm torn because I miss the friend I thought I had. What do I do? Oh boy. Interesting. Social media, man. Hey, Lemon Thunder. Nah, not much. We helped a few people with their sense of identity. Some people dealing with friendships or lost friendships. Another one we're dealing with right now. Community building and talking about, past traumas and sort of the acceptances of it. So, I don't know, maybe today's stream seems a little seems a little emotion heavy, but if you don't mind that, it's all good stuff. Nothing awful or tragic. But let's see. This actually reminds me of a personal circumstance because if you all remember, or if some of you remember, I told this story about a friend I used to have. Goes by the moniker of Cameraman, but basically it was the dumbest thing because we were playing video games. If I took that explanation out of context, I wouldn't be able to tell if you were talking about letters or social links. Isn't it all the same, Lemon Thunder? No, but I was saying, an old friend, Cameraman, we used to play games together. But he had this tendency to sort of take out his frustrations on me, and me very specifically, because he would treat other people like normal human beings, but he'd get like really personal and be a real asshole with me. And so one day I kind of I stopped talking to him because he became a really salty bitch about losing in Overwatch. And I found out he was spreading the narrative to our mutual friends that I was the one who was taking it too seriously. And so I don't talk to him anymore. But since that whole thing started, I would occasionally see him drop on social media. He'd see me playing Overwatch by myself. And I would be my ranking would be higher than his, and he'd send a message, and I'd be like, right. And so by that point in my life, I think I've been a little too cynical to kind of be like, do I really need that? Do I really need to invite that back in my life? And my answer was no. In this case, it's a little different, right? Because N here misses that friendship, even though they kind of acknowledge that their friend wasn't good to them, at least not in the end. So how do we address this? Let's see. And I had a similar falling out with a friend of mine since middle school. So I get the conflicting emotions you must feel at that. At the same time, it's important. Some people aren't really friends. Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to tell, especially when you have a long history with someone, right? And Cameraman, I've been friends with since I was in 8th grade. So, sometimes you just don't notice until you get out there, make new friends, and realize, oh, these other people don't treat me like garbage all the time. That's maybe that's what friends actually should be like. I mean, it's not like I couldn't bury the hatchet, right? Like, I very easily could have. My issue was that at the end of the day, he showed no acknowledgement or remorse that, he was being abusive. And he had no hesitation about spinning the narrative to other people to make himself look good. So, I mean, here's the thing. Burying the hatchet is good if there's acknowledgement or forgiveness or apologies involved, but if the person, causes you trouble, won't acknowledge that they cause you trouble, or won't change, right? Gives you no reason to believe that they'll change or that, they'll learn from it. Why should you endorse it? So that's kind of my stance on that matter. Like, I know, like, and I say it more than people are comfortable with, but when people have problems with, like, bad friends, I tell them, like, sometimes you just gotta stop being friends with them. And, like, people can't get their heads around it. They're like, no, I've known this person all my life. I just can't, like, not be friends with them. I'm like, why not? They treat you like garbage and they're not willing to acknowledge it? Isn't that more insult to injury too? Not not forgiving them? I mean, the thing is, and we have a bit of a society where, we're all pro love and all that. And that is inherently not a bad thing. I think it's just you need a relationship should have accountability too. And I think if you're not willing to take accountability, why should it be the responsibility of the one who was injured to kind of swallow that and just be friends despite without that? It's a very unfair situation, and I think it's sort of a kind of self-sustaining situation because of how we all kind of grow up feeling like we have to turn the other cheek or be the better person. Oh, the him lying? Yeah. I mean, this is the thing too. I don't think he was that calculated. I don't think he really thought like I need to control the media on this. I need to make sure my narrative is the one that gets out first. I honestly think that's how he saw it in his own mind. And it's unfortunate. Like he was also the kind of person who didn't have much space in his head for other people. And like I've noticed this with, a few other friends. He's very particular about who he chooses, who he treats, who he acts well to. But like, another guy, Bum, who's been in the chat for a bit, like Bum invited him to his birthday and he literally said, "Oh, that depends. What are you gonna do?" Like, who the fuck says that? Like, what kind of friend tells you to, like, make a sales pitch to them to convince them to, come hang out with you on your birthday? It's a little fucked up. So, I mean, but once again, these are things I don't think he really interprets as being malicious. I think he's just kind of that self-absorbed. Which, even if it isn't intentional, it's still bad. It's still toxic. So it's one of those things like, even knowing that, like, should you still be obligated to be friends with people like that? Personally, I don't think so. But back to this guy. Oh man, I went on a tangent there. Let's see. And I had a similar falling out with a friend of mine since middle. God. It's a good thing I reread my stuff. School. So I get the conflicting emotions you must feel at that. At the same time, it's important to acknowledge the shallowness of social media and not to read too deeply into things like that. If at the end of the day you felt he didn't respect you and showed no indication of wanting to change, you shouldn't want to shouldn't want to invite that back in your life unless you have a reason to think things would be different. And at the same time here, right? This is a very similar situation to people who have abusive relationships, like romantic relationships. You always hear about this stuff. The girlfriend or the guy friend who get back with their toxic ex because they've had so much history and they keep going back to it because it's easy. But they don't stop and think about, okay, well, what guarantee or what reason do I have to believe that things will be different this time? They just hope things will be different this time. But, you know, if the opposite party shows no remorse or acknowledgement of the issue, why should you trust that, you know? No problem, Cake Cat. I hope you have a good night. Thank you for dropping by. But yeah, clearly I have very, very strong feelings on the issue. But I think it's important because I don't think this kind of conversation happens enough in daily life. Too many people make the same mistakes. Let's see. Let's give him a dinosaur. Oh. The viewer count is higher today. I can't help but feel but wonder what all of these lurkers must be wondering about with me going on this tirade about bad friendships. Let's see. Next request. Honestly, if people who I once dated wanted to be friends with me in the first place, please don't string me along. Putting my hopes up into making amends, only to say no after. I ask you to book a time and place to catch up. Ah. Am I doing something right, Known? You think so? I've been accused of being the negative guy. I, despite playing this game, I might not be spreading positivity into the world. You probably shouldn't be looking at viewer count, though. I've heard that psychs people out something fierce. I mean, Lemon, I think it's okay as long as, like, I'm playing to a small audience. Like, I've always looked at the viewer count just to know whether it's safe to ask something like, can I, get an opinion from chat? Because then I don't want to look like an idiot asking for it when there's just one person watching. No, but it's nice to know that, like, there might be people to query if I need it, you know? But yeah. So this one's interesting because I'm almost tempted to say this is dude who's really upset with being friend zoned. Or like, but it's not really friend zoned, right? Because they're not wanting to catch up anyways. What is this? Putting my hopes up into making amends. Honestly, if people who I once dated wanted to be friends with me in the first place, please don't string me along. Oh, God, what the... This goddamn punctuation again. Putting my hopes up into making amends, only to say no after I ask you to book a time and place to catch up. Just don't do that. Yeah, I was just thinking the same too, Fana. It's like, are they mad that they screwed something up and aren't getting the chance to fix it? Please don't string me along. Putting my hopes up into making amends only to say no after I ask you to book a time. Just don't do that. I get the feel like it almost feels like something I feel when I'm dealing with online dating, because what happens to me a lot is that the girl I match with and have a conversation with, I'll ask them if they're open to meeting in person, which they'll say yes. But then they'll wait till the day of to say, you know, actually we don't have that much in common. And I honestly wish they'd just say that up front instead of, you know, like putting me in a position where I put off plans and stuff. But this I guess this is kind of like that, but it all sounds based on something going wrong with the relationship, right? Because putting my hopes up into making amends, like he just wants to clear the air, but he's getting he's getting led into thinking he'll get the opportunity for that, you know, absolution, and it's turned down in the end. Honestly, I don't, you know, this isn't really a request. It's just like he's just bitching to the world, and I don't think it's really something we need to acknowledge. So they were an ex who said, can we just be friends, or can we just break up and be friends? But they don't actually want to be friends, is what it seems like. I mean, I get the frustration. It's just sort of like the way he phrases it is so odd that it almost makes it sound like he screwed something up all the time. In which case, it's hard to be supportive of a situation like that. Let's see. Sometimes I get too caught up in my own head. I think too much, neglecting everything else. I feel more of an observer in my own life. I think too much, neglecting everything else. Caught up in my own head. Touch grass, right? I mean, it's think too much, neglect everything else. So it almost kind of sounds like maybe they just need someone to spell out what the situation is then. Sounds like you have a case of analysis paralysis. True thing, by the way. I knew a guy who we were playing board games with him. Literally sat for 30 minutes just considering all his options. Took forever to finish that game. It's kind of... I know it's a shallow thing to just suggest, but it seems like you need to just get yourself into the habit of acting on your thoughts segment by segment, rather than considering the ramifications of the whole. Find that so funny because I like to think things go through, but my brain gets stuck. I just instantly make a choice. Random card from the hand is good enough for now. No, I mean that's the thing, right? I think you either need to make snap decisions and pivot around them, or take your thoughts into segments and work at them piece by piece. Ah, that's actually an interesting thought. Just make an action and work around the action. Where's a Skillshare sponsorship when you need one? Appropriate. Appropriate. Lemon, you must watch a lot of streams if you're dropping a Skillshare sponsorship reference on me. Rather than considering the ramifications of the whole. I think too much, neglecting everything else. I feel more of an observer in my life. Maybe try switching out the mental order of operations. Try just doing something with little thought. And then focus your energy on working around it. I do game dev and 2D arts, so I go through a lot of tutorial videos. Good on you, man. No, don't do an ad read. I'm not doing an ad read. They're not paying me. You can't trick me into this. Yeah, isn't it crazy these days though? Like you can practically pick up. There's a video resource for almost anything you want to learn. I've been doing that for my IT certifications too. Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. Unless the money's coming, don't do it. Don't make me play an ad on this channel. I have the power to do that now, you know. On working... Or, let's see. Focus your energy on working the consequences around it. Cheaper than traditional schooling, that's for sure. It's like a heck of a world we live in these days. We do use it for some pretty dumb stuff, though. It is true. Like learning how to tie a tie. Alright, what we got? I wrote a letter yesterday talking about how I was finally happy and then I break down again out of literally nowhere. I feel like it's an endless cycle of the same things over and over. And I can't keep lying to myself, telling it'll get better because it's been years. No, I do that all the time. I feel like such a dumbass. Never use the same words twice in the same sentence. It's just, God, it's embarrassing. Let's see. Sometimes faking it till you make it. Mood swings, yeah. This person sounds like they need therapy. I mean, honestly, it sounds like everybody needs therapy. It's starting to look like everyone needs therapy, right? No, I mean it's also an issue of personal philosophy, and I think this person just feels disappointed that they can't kind of brute force their way out of it. Telling myself it'll get better because it's been for years. Sometimes faking it till you make it isn't a practical solution. Uh, and if you hold yourself to an expectation like that, I think you make it harder on yourself. If there are any underlying hangups that are sabotaging them consistently. Yeah, no, I mean, there's always a recurring thing, right? Unless you acknowledge what it is. Unless cycle of the same things over, I can't keep lying to myself saying it'll get better because it's been years. Let's see. One of the best things you can do for yourself is acknowledge that things aren't okay, and then try to work off that premise. Are you seeing a mental health professional? I know nobody likes having that recommendation sent their way, but it does help to get introspection as to why you feel the way you do and why it's so hard to overcome it. Speaking from personal experience. Something like that. Important here, I'd say, is understanding that you should accept that things are good when they are, but understand the bad part comes around and vice versa. I don't know if they necessarily focus or suffer from a denial of good things. But I think they're just more disappointed that they keep falling back on being upset with the sad parts. At the end of the day, though, it seems like introspective is key. Because they're saying things like they break down out of literally nowhere, right? Which implies that they, at least in their own perspective, feel that, you know, these feelings are just coming from nothing. They might be having mood swings and there might be something chemically involved, but once again, that's something you sort of need to look into if you have literally no idea. And it doesn't occur to a lot of people to kind of seek out this help, which is unfortunate because, you know, therapy isn't normalized yet. But we're getting there. And I think the more people talk about it publicly, the less scary and the less last resorty it feels to people. Let's see. I can't help but pent up my feelings because it's the best course of action so people think I'm stable when I'm really not. Last time I vented to someone, it was my first time. They left me and said I'm too difficult. Yikes. They left me. What does that mean, they left me? Right? Like a relationship left you? Because here's the thing, right? It's not like there's anything wrong with venting, but if you vent in the wrong ways, that tells a little more about yourself than someone might be comfortable with. Especially if you're operating off of sort of bad takes. You could be unintentionally racist or sexist when you vent. And that could be kind of a big deal. But I do know people who only know how to vent, right? And the thing is, if you vent but take no action to solve your own problems, anyone would lose patience with that. So I think the key, and I don't think this is necessarily like see a therapist. Right. Yeah, Fana, I think we're obviously missing context here too. I don't think anyone just sort of drops a person like a potato because they're too difficult. Like, if you hear them vent once, I'm very skeptical whether anyone would actually do that from just one session of venting. They said it was their first time. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if this warrants like have you seen professional help kind of response, but you might want to consider how you're venting your frustrations that could be putting people off. I think when, for example, when people vent about people in very insulting and vent about others in a very insulting and disrespectful way, that could come off as lacking self introspection. Likewise, venting without expressing any desire to adjust or work around a situation. To adjust or to adapt or improve the situation. Can come off as just lazy or unconstructive. There isn't anything inherently wrong with venting, but it's important to acknowledge that the act does reveal something about yourself. So it is self-representation. I need more characters again. A form of self-representation. Yeah, I mean, that's weird, right? Like, who... Also, the can anyone help me? That's a strange one as well. Right. Can anyone help me? People think I'm stable when I'm really not. Last time I vented to someone, they left me and said I'm too difficult. I mean, it might sound a bit like victim shaming, but at the same time, no one's saying you can't talk about your problems, but I feel like there's definitely something off about the way that comes out. I'm stressed about my job, never feeling good enough. I am stressed about my job. You know what would make you better at your job? Checking your spelling. No, that's my inherent mean streak. I'm sorry, Chad. I didn't mean to reveal that part of myself. But clearly we got working professionals in here too that still can't be bothered with punctuation or proper spell checking. Like, it gets to me sometimes. I'm like, we've got kids on here, that's fine, but you're an adult. What's your excuse, you know? I am stressed about my job, never feel good enough. Do you never feel good enough for your job, or never feel good enough for some other reason? Yeah, Pilgrim, but I mean, come on, they're not writing like a freaking thesis. It's not that hard. This is literally one sentence minus the period. You could at least look it over, you know? Am I the only one who's bothered by this? It's like when I used to go out to lunch with my friends. There was the whole thing with calculating tip, and it used to drive me nuts that people would bust out their calculators to calculate tip. Especially when it's like they're dropping 20% tip. That's just divide by 5. For some reason, people can't divide by 5. And that's crazy to me. It's like the same thing. You're like, you gotta multiply by 20 and then move over the 1. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I don't know. It's just such an easy thing to catch. If you never feel good enough for your job, I think you're overstressing yourself. As long as they're paying you and you're not getting fired, you're doing good enough. I just tip $5 and move on. No, I mean, you average that out, you round up. It's a very easy thing to deal with. I mean, Fana, punctuation, like, I don't need a period at the end of every sentence, but like, you gotta break up your sentences in a way that flows when you read it, So you know the pacing, you know when you get to another point. Pilgrim, are you making YouTube money I don't even know about? Like, are you actually a YouTube mogul and you're just dropping the dollars like that? Or are you just eating $2,000 lunches? Vocal representation. I mean, it all kind of comes hand in hand. I don't know. I might just be particularly anal about those things, but like, I'm not even like a literature major either. Like, I I have never been good with grammar or writing. So I think the sight of people who do worse than I do frustrates me especially because I see myself at the low end of the bar. Capital letters don't make a sound. Oh, they totally make a sound, Fana. Haven't you seen angry chatters in your favorite FPS game? You know what it sounds like when they're typing in all caps. As long as they're paying you and you're not getting fired, you're doing good enough. If you want to be sure, you can always ask your supervisors as well. To be honest, though, a job should not make you question your value as a human. It's a business exchange at the end. That's my point, though. They only make a difference when used incorrectly. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like there is a certain reverence when you apply capitals to like a proper noun or something like that, but we're not here to argue the validity of grammar. Regardless of whether they spell things correctly or add punctuation, we still address these problems. And let's see, this person, what do we give them? Let's give them a robot to symbolize their devotion to the corporate overlords. Let's see. Sometimes I feel like my friends don't even like me at all, or don't like talking to me. I'm always cautious about what I say because if I misword something a tiny bit wrong, I might get bashed for it and I feel worse. I don't know. I just feel kind of alone, like no one truly cares. This I actually kind of relate to a lot. So big surprise, you know, back in high school, I was friends with the types like Cameraman. And back then, you know, I wasn't streaming on Twitch, so I wasn't nearly as eloquent as, you know, some of you seem to think I am these days. So I would trip over the words, I would use the wrong words and like get a wrong idea across, and you know, I get teased for it by people who are much more confident and, you know, much more well-spoken than I was. So I kind of get this feeling. I used to actually, and this is a thing I'm not particularly proud of, but I used to be so kind of insecure about myself that I would actually disappear mid-hangout because I felt like no one would notice, and so I would always test that. So, you know, after school, go to like McDonald's or whatever, hang out like in front of the storefront, whatever. And then I'd kind of slip away and take the bus home when no one was looking. For the record, don't do that. That's not cool. Late 30s adult me acknowledges how silly and immature that is. But my point is, I understand kind of the feeling this person's trying to convey. Ah, bum. Really? You really had to show up right when I was telling the story about things I did when you were there? Talk about fucking embarrassing, man. So for the record, Bum and I knew each other since middle school. He was around when I did that. So, you know. Of course he shows up for the story he can actually relate to. Well, yeah, how do we help this poor soul not make the same mistakes I made? Yeah, Fana. I mean, it's a tough thing, right? Especially when you don't feel acknowledged or valued among, whatever area you belong to. There's always that weird, there's that instinct to kind of test the boundaries of that and try to prove your worst case scenario correct, which is unfortunate. What if I say, because sometimes I feel like my friends don't like talking to me. Let's see. I relate, let's see, S. I relate to this circumstance a lot. Back when I was a kid. Oh God, I'm throwing that line out there. I felt super overshadowed by my friends who were infinitely more confident in themselves than me. I was hesitant to speak out, and sometimes I'd even disappear because I didn't feel like I would be noticed. Now I got the relating part, but how to help them is the question. Because I can kind of look back on it and say, well, a good part of that was also just on me, right? It was my insecurity sort of driving me to do stuff like this. But that's not exactly helpful because I can't just tell them, oh, just be more confident in yourself, forehead. The trick is to have a smoke bomb in your pocket that you could just throw down, and then you disappearing will actually look cool instead of pathetic. Hmm. Something a tiny bit wrong, I get bashed for it and I feel worse. I get the feeling you might have a similar discrepancy among you and your friends. Hmm. I mean, yeah, no, his friends could be dickheads. I mean, that's always a possibility too. I get the feeling he's a kid though, right? You don't get very many adults kind of talking about things like this. But I think a lot of times, I mean, it's not necessarily that they're dickheads, but once again, it goes with the perspective thing, right? A social genius will never understand how much of a struggle it is for a shut-in or a nervous talker to really try to get themselves out there. So, it's easy to kind of joke and bash them for it, but the empathy isn't there. So it doesn't necessarily make them bad, it just makes them ignorant. Among you and your friends. Hmm. When I get down and feel alone, I always cheer myself up by watching live stream. Dude, don't be weird. Lemon Thunder. Why the hell are you being weird? Don't be weird, man. That's not a solution. He doesn't need cheering up. He just... For fuck's sake, dude. Let's see. If there's one you can speak candidly with, maybe try to verbalize this all out in a safe environment. That sounds almost like he's in witness protection. You guys are being so... You know parasocial behavior is like kind of frowned upon these days, right? Don't be these weirdos. I'm in my late 30s. I don't need that kind of attention on me. Trying to solve some teenage angst, goddammit. Maybe try to verbalize this all out in a small setting. In a smaller setting. They may just not get how much it bothers you. Alright. There's always the traditional solution of making friends with video game characters instead. Oh no. And then he can get a two-dimensional girlfriend too. No, it's not about that. I think he's just frustrated with his current lot in life. It's not that he doesn't have friends, it's just that the friends he's made, he has this kind of relationship with them. And so, you know, I get it. It's like you're not happy with how it worked out in the end. No offense to you, bum. You know, despite you, we still hang out as 30s-year-olds, so you should appreciate my benevolence. Okay, got this one again. Skip that. I know this is a terrible thing, but I get jealous of my friend who's more talented, famous, and liked compared to me. I would really like to have this feeling go away. Any advice? Oh, jealousy. We all have that friend who's like better than us in all stats, right? Like, you roll your character, you've got like 12s, 13s, and then you got your friend who's all 18s. How do you not feel jealous of that? Good for you, Fana. I'm glad we have someone in the chat who can't relate to this problem. Oh, terrible thing, but I get jealous of my friend who's more talented. I redirect my envy at superior people that aren't my friends instead. No, but that's the thing, right? I don't think people are generally No, never mind. People definitely are envious of the people they don't like. Never mind. I was totally off base with that train of thought. The world If I've seen anything in Twitch chat, I know that people are incredibly envious of people they don't like. Look at Pokemon's viewership. Uh, to be frank, not everyone can be me, which is really sad to think about. Let's see. Jealousy about friendship. You know, Pilgrim, technically Pokemon's name is supposed to be Pokemon. The world just butchered it, and she had no choice but to adopt the mispronunciation. Let's see. Have I been jealous of my own friends? I think it's trickier for me to kind of relate to this situation because, if anything, I don't think I suffered from jealousy so much as I suffered from a severe inferiority complex, which is a lot different. Rather than fixating on other people, it was definitely self-directed. I mean, it could be a mistaken kind of categorization, I suppose, but being around if being around people who you perceive as your betters makes you feel worse, I think it's a similar circumstance in that regard. How do we not feel jealous? As an adult, I don't think I generally feel jealous about anyone except stupid people. Because they're not plagued by the sheer intelligence I possess, and therefore the frustration of lesser mortals among us. Embrace the skills and fortune that you do have instead of cursing what you don't have. It is, I mean, it's true, but I don't think it's a digestible message, unfortunately. That said, self-directed focus may be the key here. Let's see, T. I think a good way to break a fixation on other people is to redirect your focus to yourself. Right. You can't market that to teenagers. No, you definitely can't. But yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, you can't compare yourself to other people if you only think about yourself. Just like the word that they use the word talent. Who's more talented, famous? Other people is to redirect your focus to yourself. If you're concerned that you yourself are not good enough or deficient in certain aspects, maybe use that as motivation for self-improvement. You know, I'm kind of losing faith in this advice actually as I type it out, because when I think about the way I was, right? Severe inferiority complex. Constantly thinking I have to better myself. Constantly be aware of the mistakes I made to avoid doing them again. I do think there's a certain toxicity to that. It's self-inflicted toxicity, because then you hyperfixate on how you're not good enough. And that kills your self-esteem. So maybe that's a bad idea. Maybe we don't recommend this. Fixating on other people is bad, but over-fixating on yourself is probably worse. Jealous of his friend who's more talented, more famous. Let's see. If you're in a situation where you feel like you have to look at yourself comparatively with your friend, maybe you need to try to... Maybe you should try doing more things on your own so you can develop a better sense of self-worth. Yeah, that sounds better actually. Because here's the other thing too, right? If you're always with your friends, or if you're always with your, self-perceived superior friends, you're always going to think about how you're not as good at them at doing things, right? You play sports with them, they're always going to be better than you at sports. You go into social settings with them, they're always going to look better than you. So you do things by yourself, right? Or do things without them. Or without that friend, so you can develop a better sense of self-worth. The one problem with this, however, is that kind of leads to, like, does that mean they stop hanging out with their friend? No, it shouldn't, but it limits that kind of interaction, right? It's like, why don't you want to hang out with me at school dances? Or why don't you want to go to the parties I go to, So we got to strike a balance here in how we give this advice. Maybe you should try doing more things on your own or without that friend so you can develop a better sense of self-worth. Don't cut yourself off from them. But I think you might just benefit from spending less social time with them. Spending less time in large groups with them. Put yourself in situations where you don't feel like you're his sidekick or something. I'm assuming pronouns again. My apologies, chat. Maybe you should try to sense, don't cut you off from them. Yes. For some reason, I assumed this person was a guy, but I might just be projecting my personal feeling on them. We'll give him this minion-looking sticker. All right, let's see. Let's do one more for the road, and then we'll call it an end of the night. Still gotta work tomorrow, unfortunately. Such is adult life. This one's not asking for help, and I don't feel like venting frustrations or fears. That's what Twitch chat is for. I want to research genetics. I've studied books on my own time, but I'm sure of how to find a college that can teach this. I fear that this may be out of my reach, or this will forever be a fantasy. I'm not sure I can relate with the previous question. I've had friends that had qualities I find myself lacking in, but the feeling was more that I took pride in being their friend rather than jealousy. You know, Pilgrim, I mean, jealousy, no one's proud to admit to being jealous. I'm not saying you were ever jealous at any given time, but I think the thing is when you're constantly compared, that's how easy it is to sort of develop that kind of feeling. Like, if you're around with, your seemingly superior friend and everyone refers to you as, oh, you're Bob's friend, or you're that guy who hangs out with Bob, and like you kind of lack an identity of your own because you shine so dimly next to them. I think I see where that jealousy could come from. I don't think it's necessarily as selfish or ugly as people give it credit for. I think in a lot of ways it could be a natural consequence. But yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that you're judging them. I think it's just I think conventionally it's viewed that way because I think a lot of people I think I don't think it's as commonly experienced. I mean, classic example of jealousy is Ron Weasley, right? If he were gonna go to hell for anything, it would be envy for sure. I think this one, Seto Kaiba. I don't know if he's jealousy, man. He's just butthurt because he can't beat one guy in a card game. He's a millionaire otherwise. He owns the card game. This genetics guy, I don't know, seems a little too... They're giving up too easily. I don't know. I don't know if I feel like ending on this one because this one seems a little too straightforward. Someone's going to very easily have advice for this person. No, I'm just talking about the circles of hell. Let's see. I feel like I'm suffocating in my own indecision. A claustrophobic, quiet feeling. I want to explain it all, but it feels like no one will listen till the end. I get confused from there and resort to hoping for the courage to do the things I want. I say I can, but then I don't do. A little too poetic. I mean, it's basically a fear of inaction, but it's also one of those situations where it's just so general you can't really give good advice. I don't know. I'm not going to have fun with this one, I don't think. Let's look for... No more poetry, please. Well, I think they just wanted to throw this out into the world. Message in a bottle kind of thing. Isn't that an airplane? Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, though, the game sort of inspires you to write something positive in the airplane. So I think people are kind of discouraged for just writing sad shit and sending it out like that, you know? These are bad analogies. I don't know. I'm just looking for a really good, fun, and interesting one. This is just a side shower thought. I feel emotionally and socially, academically, and mentally destroyed over a heartbreak. I want things to mend and heal, and me and her are reconnecting, but it's in a way that I really hate. I don't want to forget about everything we had built up before. Sounds like someone's not getting over, not accepting a breakup. It's in a way I really hate. I don't want to forget about everything we had built up before. Do we do another romance problem? Emotionally, socially, I don't know. God, there's so much melodrama in all this. Part of me just kind of wants to shake him and be like, it doesn't matter what you want. It's a two-way street. Because I'm not going to say anything that's really going to make him feel better or happier. It's in a way I really hate. I don't want to forget about everything we had built up before. Don't like it. Don't like it. I know I'm like passing a lot of these, and I hate how many of them I'm passing, but I'm just looking for a good, you know, you want that last win of the game, you know? You want to end on a win. I changed my plans of finishing redoing all of grade school before starting gymnasium to finish redoing grade school before turning 18. What the hell is... Jesus. No, I don't know. I feel stuck. Worth. Okay. Freaking suicide messages. Alright, let's do it. Don't really see the point. I ruined my last relationship, and I contemplated taking my life twice in the past year and a half. I don't want to die because that scares me now, but I don't know what to do. I feel stuck, lost, and worthless. Let's see. R. Is the ruined relationship the only reason you've thought about suicide? My first instinct here is that's kind of an overreaction, right? Why would you think about suicide as a result of a breakup? What was so special about this relationship? Or what did you do that was that bad? It seems a little extreme. Because if it's the only thing you had to live for, That must mean there's a lot else lacking in your personal life. I think that's the part you should focus on in order to move forward. Yeah, that's... If it's the only thing you had to live for, that must mean there's... Is that kind of twisting the knife, you think? That must mean there's a lot else lacking in your personal life? There's a fine line between kind of a blunt observation and kind of salt in the wound, right? Yeah. So 10 out of 10, a little too harsh then. All right, let's take a different tack. If you're at a loss on how to move forward, I think you should redirect your focus on the other aspects of your life. Just a lack of get up and crawl out of the deep hole. Okay, yeah, let's take out the it seems a little extreme because that's kind of reductionist. They're just wallowing right now. Because it's not exactly relationship advice. I almost wrote... There's more to a relationship than just the relationship. But I don't think that's what we need to focus on. They're afraid of dying. But I don't think that fear is rooted in something rational. I think it's more fear of the unknown than fear of letting something down or fear of missing out on something. You should focus on the other aspects of your life. The old "that's not even possible" fear. You should focus on the other aspects of your life. There's more than just relationships that could keep you going. There's more than just relationships that could keep you going. And if this feeling is more related to a guilt you feel about how the relationship went bad. Calibrate your efforts towards becoming better. Towards just becoming better. It helps to have an objective. It helps to have an objective to work towards. Don't know what to do. I feel stuck and worthless. So you can feel better about yourself. Okay. Or is the ruined relationship the only reason you've thought about suicide? If you're at a loss on how to move forward, I think you should focus on the other aspects of your life. There's more than just relationships that could keep you going. And if this feeling is more related to a guilt you feel, I need to not use feeling and feel in the same sentence. You have about how the relationship went bad. Recalibrate your efforts towards just becoming better so you can... Fuck! Towards just becoming better so you can see... So you can... God. So you can feel better about yourself. Keep going, and if this is... Okay, we don't have to write feeling. If this is more related to a guilt you have about how the relationship went bad, recalibrate your efforts towards just becoming better so you can feel better about yourself. It helps to have an objective to work towards. Do you need to not use them together? It's pretty natural. It just bugs the hell out of me. There's no rule against it, but I think it just kind of feels silly once you're aware. That's just a me thing. I'm not saying like I'll judge other people for it, but sometimes it does sound funny. Let's see, this person needs to be on their healing arc here. Let's give them a plant. All right. And I think we're good for the night. Let's see what the world sent me. So as usual, I start out the stream sending out a message into the world. Today is the topic of being a little too proactive. As I've mentioned before, I am the last single friend. And so I'm in the uncomfortable situation of having to ask more to hang out than other people. Just because, you know, given the current circumstances, and I don't blame anyone for this, mind you. It's just that if you're already living with, your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever friend, or your husband or wife, life partner, whatever, you don't need to try so hard to maintain a social life like you did when you were single or living by yourself. And so, it's hard not to feel a little resentful sometimes at the idea of like, if I ever want to hang out, I have to be the one who always asks. I mean, it's an obvious kind of given conclusion too, right? If you want to do something, you make it happen. But sometimes it just doesn't feel like other people want it to happen. So kind of that feeling, I suppose. Let's see. This was me a lot for most of my life. I don't have much of a social life nowadays due to being so busy, but I eventually did find those people that made me feel like I was wanted. Like they would want to talk to me and want to do things with me. It really depends on people you meet and become friends with. Some of your friends will have other people they'd rather talk to and spend time with, mainly, or they just lack initiative. All the best. I get it for completely different reasons. I'm pretty ill and can't tell when I can go out till day of, so it's quite hard to maintain stuff. Yeah, I mean, special circumstances aside, right? And that's the thing. Like, if you actually if there's actually a reason, there's no reason to, like, hold any resentment about that. But yeah, I mean, this guy pretty much gets it, but ended up having friends who he could, kind of reliably have that kind of equal treatment with. What's tricky for me, and once again, as the last single friend at the age I am, it's hard to kind of find those people. Find people who aren't, already spoken for or in relationships. But that's just the life of being an old single person. I'll give him Abraham. Let's see. Haha, this is something I deal with all the time. I'd say you have to judge on a case-by-case basis. See, here's the thing. Have you noticed that whenever people respond to my letters, they use proper punctuation and spelling? It's like the onus is on the responder and not for the requester to actually check their writing. It's crazy. Some people legitimately have very little time. Like I have a friend who works insane hours. I can't expect him to think about hanging out when they probably just want to rest and recover. Conversely, I have other friends who, like you said, I'm always the one initiating. If people are always taking from you and never reciprocating effort, they're not your friends. I hope you find people who make you feel appreciated. Once again, we get back on the topic of friendship, right? And what constitutes good friend behavior versus bad friend behavior? I'm gonna give this guy some unusual stickers. Yeah, everyone gets it. Sometimes it feels like if you ever forgot to talk to them or stop planning things, you'll just get left in the dust and they won't look back. It's actually happened a couple times. The worst is because I'm the only one making an effort to contact them, I feel like I'm bothering them. But sometimes people surprise you and invite you to events years later. Not everyone is like that, just takes a bit. It's a rough spot to be in, so I feel for you. I hope you'll get through it okay. See, this guy here, this guy didn't offer false hope. And this is why I like this response the best. He approached it from a very realistic, very Very, very understanding perspective. My 853-page dissertation. I got a lot to say on the matter. I'd say, friendships are like the relationship types we all have the most experience with, right? Questionably more so than family, even. I'll give him a round cow. Yeah, the other ones were kind of try to wait for the luck to kick in. I mean, that's the thing, right? And that's what makes kind of playing this quote unquote game so hard, because waiting for luck, hoping that it gets better, saying it'll get better, it's a very empty platitude. And for anyone who knows, going through harsh times, it's not helpful. Everyone who goes through hard times looks at responses like that and feels very begrudging about that kind of response, because it's, it's like it's like hoping all the best XOXO, and you're kind of like, that's not helpful. Yeah, no. It gets better. Like, in the future. I'm middle-aged, man. I don't I don't have that kind of time anymore. So, that's kind of the funny perspective that comes with being an older person on a platform like this. Yeah. No, that's exactly right, Fana. It's about acknowledging that the foundations are damaged. They may not get better, but you kind of have to work around it as best you can. And that's the best advice anyone can really give at the end of the day. But yeah, on that note, and on this very relevant paper airplane, I think that's it for the night. Thank you guys for coming by as usual. Fana, Known, Cake Cat, Lemon Thunder, Pilgrim, and Bum, who showed up shortly, but I think decided he'd rather be playing Overwatch right now. And the various okay. And the various other lurkers who showed up at some point. I'm wondering who the heck. Oh yeah, and Potalamus, who followed today. I'm wondering who all these people are who keep following the channel when I'm offline. Like, that's crazy. They must be just looking for VODs or something. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday night. Maybe I'll stream on Sunday. We'll see how things go. But yeah, no, I hope you are all well. Make good choices. Think about your friends and whether they're good to you or not. And we'll talk again next time. Have a good night, folks.